Ordinance Act 1974 and all provisions of that act, having given adequate notice of this meeting, having been published on the Township's two official newspapers on January 12, 2025, posted on the Township website, and posted on the official Township bulletin board.
Thank you. All right, we have the approval of minutes from the February 10th, 2025 council meeting.
Motion to approve.
We have a first.
Second?
We have a second.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Astor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Abstain.
Ms. Burkus?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we have resolutions for consideration by council. We have resolution number 2025-45. This is a resolution authorizing an executive session. And we need to do a brief executive session, or you want to move it till after the meeting?
Mayor, that's too full. I really don't need much time. This is for pending, or not pending, current litigation. Just that bring the.
We can do it
council
after.
up to speed on that.
Yeah, we can do that.
At the end of the meeting?
Yeah, we do that.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, you wanna?
All right, there's a need to add a resolution to the agenda this evening. This is resolution 2025-46. This is a resolution approving fee proposals from Richard A. Lino Associates in connection with the Jefferson Avenue Improvement Project. This is for a total amount of the project for $625,000, with $125,000 for design services for Richard Lino.
All right, we have a, you made it first.
That would be a motion to add first.
Need a second? Second? We have a second from Mr. Brown. Any roll call?
Ms. Astor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Burkus?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes.
All right, motion to add,
So resolution 2025-46 is, like I said, what Mr. DeFalco was basically saying, is a resolution to add the improvements, I guess, for Jefferson Avenue, to fix the, I guess, the ravine in that particular area. So I know we have some residents in here from that area. They were looking to find some resolution to fix a problem that's been ongoing for I don't know how long. So now we look to find additional grant money to fix that particular problem. And we just got the first grant in. And so that resolution 2025-46 is approving that particular grant for that particular project. Okay? And now, since it's been added, we have to vote on it, correct? All right, so we already, since it's been added, so can I bring a motion to approve this resolution 2025-46?
Motion to approve?
We have a first? We have a second, roll call?
Ms. Astor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Burkus?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 2025-46 has passed. Thank you. All right, so we have ordinance, we have a few ordinances on the docket tonight. We have an ordinance for first reading by title only. So there will be no comments, no public comment portion for these particular ordinances. Ordinance 2025-4 is an ordinance amending Article 21 of the Code of the Township of Mount Holly to address revisions to the compensation to be paid to the Mount Holly Municipal Utilities Authorities Commissioners.
Yes.
Are you able to,
Can we skip first?
sure, give first a second.
Thank you. For a second.
We have first?
I'll move it.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Brown?
Okay, so, just a couple quick questions about this. What, can you give us an understanding of why we are adjusting, the pay rate, and what is the thinking behind having it match and be linked directly to the township council.
Yeah.
It feels a little arbitrary, I literally don't understand.
Yeah, so years ago, when we went and looked at the township salary ordinance, it was out of date by probably 30 years. That's directly linked up with the NUA as well, with their, there was a stipulation on a specific amount that was to be set aside for the councilmen and also for the NUA commissioners. This was left out, and all this does is align itself with the current salary ordinance that's passed every year on an annual basis, and it's left up to the commissioners of the NUA to set a number from 0 to whatever the top number is. And that's what that is, as opposed to being, the last time it was updated was in 1990. Right.
Was this initiated by the MUA?
It was brought up at some point, yes.
Had the MUA board is initiating
Yeah,
this?
about 2 years ago it was brought up.
And do you have some sense of where this falls in line with, other nearby municipal utilities, services?
Yes, yeah, we went out and looked at all different MUAs that are out there, from Willenboro being
Like on the high.
on the high end in the tens of thousands, to low ends where the MUA of the township was at about $1,000. So we kind of picked a place that was in the middle, as well as a place where we can make the MUA commissioners responsible for what they set themselves for every year.
And then, so their ceiling would be at what our,
They can't have any more than what the township gives themselves.
Point of information as well, to follow up with that. Like, I have no problem with NUA commissioners getting the same as council, but, in reading it, I'm not 100% sure, just because it doesn't set a set dollar amount, it just says that to match council. Is there any protection, say a future council decides to vote that council gets $0, that means the commissioners on the MUA would get $0, or that, you know, a future council could vote to have their salary set at $10,000, like,
That's correct, and then those individuals should be held to the scrutiny of being elected to those offices if they do stuff like that. Yeah.
so wouldn't it be better to just set it at a specific dollar amount?
Well, let's say in 2 years, we decide that, like you said, we don't want to do a salary. Maybe we move the whole piece at that point, and then we make it where the MUA has to dictate this themselves. So, and we could set an amount, we can say the amount at which the town council has approved for themselves, I guess. But this is not to exceed that number,
Okay,
so, yeah.
okay, just because, yeah, I thought like any future council could just change things, it could go like either way.
But they should, but they could, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have a first and a second roll call.
Ms. Astor? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Burkus?
Yes.
Mr. Falco?
Abstain.
Mr. Banks?
Yes. Thank you. All right. Ordinance 2025 ordinance passed for first reading only. We have ordinance 2025-5, ordinance amending chapter 149, land use to permit delivery of class 6 cannabis business license, and further amend chapter 89A to establish a limit on the number of class 6 delivery licenses in the town. Can we get a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a first. Second. We have a second.
all right, point of information?
Yes.
And then I appreciate you guys, responding to my questions, I know they were coming in hot. I just want to clarify, this ordinance will not dictate that a company, I think we're at, whatever, we would be allowing up to 3 licenses for delivery of cannabis in our township. But this ordinance does not require that the company delivering is delivering product from one of our in-town retailers, correct?
Correct.
And I saw, thank you for sharing the link to the state site, which, from what I remember reading, says that a licensee can deliver anywhere.
Anywhere in the state, yep, anywhere in the state.
And it is, so we cannot legally make a requirement that the company the licensee who is delivering has to get product from one of the 5 establishments in our town.
So that's already inherited in the law. this purpose. I can't trump what the state's already done in terms of, the law.
Mhm.
The sales are generated with, by one of the Class 5 retail, establishments. All this vehicle allows, the Class 6 to do is to distribute it and deliver it within the township, within XYZ township, ABC township, that's all it does.
So they could, I mean, if they had the right licenses, they can pick up here, deliver somewhere else, they can pick up somewhere else, deliver here, if we pass this, they can deliver from elsewhere into town.
Correct.
Okay, so you can understand then this, in my opinion, creates additional pressure on the 5 businesses we have already, because it could be bringing in additional product from outside, arguably.
They could, but the license is cited at a particular location where the sales are
Okay.
going to occur within this township.
Okay, understood.
That's the only restrictions that's on it, and this council can't put that restriction on. The
Yep.
legislature's already done it.
Yep, okay.
Thank you. So we have a first and a second?
Sorry,
You have
Also,
another question?
point of information, I just wanna make sure I'm clear, I was trying to listen to her, and listen to the answers. My main concern is that we don't create more competition for the 5 retailers that have set up shop in town, and we do get revenue, taxation from every sale that happens in town. So by passing this, we are giving 3 licenses, which would then allow outside businesses to have product delivered here, which we would not receive taxation on, correct? No, correct, I'd love to be wrong, no, okay.
So.
How will we get tax revenue from the delivery?
So what happens is that the business, the delivery business works directly with our dispensary. There's one particular dispensary that requested this.
Okay,
So all of the product will be coming out of that particular dispensary here in Mount Holly, and we get tax revenue on all of it, whether it's being delivered or whether somebody's walking in and purchasing whatever. So we get more revenue.
In this case, yeah.
Yes.
okay, and I see that we set the limit at 3, but we have 5 retailers, so that is my concern, that we'd be cutting out 2 retailers theoretically by only allowing 3. So I just wanna make sure that I'm being fair to the existing businesses that spent money to, come into town, and make sure that we protect them and that we get as much revenue as possible. So we only have 3 licenses, correct?
How did we come to 3?
Because we didn't want to do this one and have a monopoly. And
Sure.
we didn't want to do 5 because that's how we ended up with one.
Right,
So
there.
we set it at 3, thinking it was a reasonable number and that there was allowed for competition, but not.
Not for oversaturation.
Right.
Okay, and just question 2, and technically right now, if there's a company that is delivering for another dispensary, they could theoretically already be delivering to people within Mount Holly, correct? That we're not making,
You wouldn't know.
yes, and so in a way, it's like,
Like DoorDash.
Control that.
yeah, so in a way,
I
like,
work from a restaurant outside of my town.
yeah, okay. That's understandable, I think, I'm just trying to find that balance of being fair, but making sure that we help the businesses that have chosen to
I've
be here
only had
and get
one
revenue.
inquiry on delivery from one dispensary, no one else has inquired, and these people inquired in October of
Okay,
last year.
oh, great, thank you,
So,
yeah,
Yeah, it's something that I would like to do for one of the businesses in town.
okay, awesome, thank you.
All right, thank you. So no more questions, let's bring it up to a roll call.
Ms. Astor? Yes. Mr. Brown? Ms. Burgess?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, ordinance 2025-5, that's passed.
We turn on the mics by any chance, or it looks like they're off?
So, we have an ordinance for second reading, and this will come with a public hearing. So we have ordinance 2025-2, this is amending chapter 149, entitled Land Use and Creation of New Health and Life Sciences District, Article 18, and to modify related zoning requirements as recommended in the Mount Holly Township Master Plan Re-examination Report adopted by the Planning Board of September 10, 2024. And before I open it up to the public, I believe everybody should have received a map, of the updated map in the back or a handout. And this particular map and all the updates will give all the particular facts in regard to what the HL overlay and health and life sciences zone entail. And we also have our planner here, Matt, mind explaining the details of this particular ordinance.
Absolutely. So yeah, like Mr. Mayor said, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having me, and thank you, Governor Weiss, for having me.
Pat, you wanna turn your mic?
I think it is. I wasn't talking into it, I apologize. I'll try to talk louder too. So the resolution that we're, reviewing for second reading tonight, is looking at the Health and Life Sciences District. This is something that we recommended in, our, latest master plan reexamination report, as was stated. You'll find in the, copy of the resolution, looking at the purposes of the, Health and Life Sciences District, so just bringing to light, some things that are included in there. One of them, first and foremost, is to acknowledge the existing hospital in this area, as it is one of the prominent uses within the existing OB zone. But it also works in hand to retain the township's small-town, pedestrian-oriented neighborhood environment, while also recognizing the adjacent residential uses and areas. So this particular zone that we're contemplating for establishment really looks to, go into the OB zone as it currently exists, and sort of maintain those existing uses, but also looking at where the hospital has expanded over the years, over a long period of time, into not the OB zone, into the R2. One of the first maps that I want to bring up in reference that you may have a copy of is the existing zoning district boundaries, and I'll keep referencing this if needed. That's just to provide context as to where we are now. And then one of the next maps has the purple and yellow. This shows the newly proposed HL zoning district boundaries. As you can see, it mostly coincides with the existing OB zoning district boundaries if you compare them at a side-by-side, with some subtle changes around the exterior. It's not a vast expansion of the zone. And as we'll get to it later, these proposed expansions really coincide with how the hospital has grown and acquired properties in its tertiary areas over the years. You'll also notice on here that there's yellow areas that are marked. That is sort of the second half of what we're going to be considering, and that's the HL overlay zone, which has to do with the surrounding residential areas. And I'll expand to that in just a second. The last map that you may have received a copy of is this. It's kind of complicated, so I'll try to talk through it. It includes those proposed HL zoning district boundaries, as well as the proposed health and life sciences overlay. And it also shows, based on the most recent tax data that I could find, those properties which are owned by the hospital. And so we can sort of see how the boundaries that are proposed for this new HL zone, for the most part, align with those properties that are owned by the hospital. So now back to, I would say, the second map with the health and life sciences overlay. You'll notice that it's sort of gaps in the proposed HL zone. That's because that zone is meant to recognize the existing residential areas around the hospital. As you all are very familiar with, it's a delicate balance between the uses. And so that overlay zone really looks to establish the slower moving evolution that the hospital has experienced in its history, and that it hopefully experiences in the future, it may experience in the future. And so again, you'll just see in the further map, really the properties that are within that overlay zone don't coincide with where the hospital already owns. So it's not, in essence, trying to say that we're putting an overlay on the hospital's properties. It's really just zoning those properties that the hospital owns. I'd like to go back to the proposed uses that we're looking at here and sort of how they relate to one another in the purple zone versus in the yellow zone. So the permitted principal uses that are proposed for the purple zone are just as you would expect, that are consistent with the area. Hospitals and medical centers, nursing and residential care facilities, outpatient care, licensed adult daycare and child care services, a number of professional, technical, and administrative business support services, educational facilities related to health and life sciences, pharmacies, and we also recognize that the existing single-family dwellings, would also be a permitted use. However, I would like to note that in the boundaries that are currently considered, I don't believe there are any residences included in those boundaries. That is because all the residences that are in the area coincide with the overlay zone. And the overlay, moving forward to the second half of this, the overlay is, as I mentioned, to allow for the gradual evolution of the hospital into the surrounding areas over time through qualified purchases and through acquisitions that are made by the hospital themselves with the surrounding properties. It's not necessarily saying that the hospital definitely is going to go here, but if the hospital has the means to do so and they go through the proper channels to do so, that the zoning and controls of which I just described in the proposed HL district would extend into those properties that they acquire justfully, I'll say, or through the proper channels. Again, I'd like to read the purposes of the Health and Life Sciences Overlay District. It's recognizing and the gradual evolution of the hospital and medical facilities around the Madison Avenue area, and it recognizes and protects the existing residential community around the campus. As mentioned, I feel like several times, it's gradual, it's slow, it's not an immediate thing, and it's sort of as the hospital progresses through their natural growth. We recognized in our master plan reexamination report that for the hospital to provide state-of-the-art care and modern health science care, if it needs to expand in the future, this, as we presented, balance between the existing surrounding residential areas and the areas that the hospital already owns. I should also note that the reason why it was mentioned in the master plan reexamination at first is that the hospital owns properties in the R2 zone already. It owns properties that are not within the office building district. Medical facilities and the facilities in which they're required to provide that state-of-the-art care that I mentioned aren't permitted in that zone. So this really provides the hospital, which is an employer in the township, the opportunity to provide that care as needed. I'd also like to bring to light, finally, some of the requirements of the overlay. It should the hospital want to expand into those areas in the future. So first and foremost, the overlay recognizes that the proposed zoning controls of the Health and Life Sciences District would only take effect if a property owner with 40,000 square feet or more of contiguous land, adjacent land, within the Health and Life Sciences District that's being proposed purple, if an applicant occupied 40,000 square feet of land, so a little under an acre, wanted to develop into that overlay zone and they owned the property to do such, then the zoning controls within the HL district would apply. So it's sort of giving additional zoning controls. It's still maintaining the underlying R2 zoning, but it's expanding the list of permitted uses and also allowing for flexibility in the bulk standards should an application come before the Township Planning Board. And again, it's noted there, in addition to owning that large amount of land, is that the conditions set forth for the overlay require any property owner that wishes to do those uses in the Health and Life Sciences overlay, that they acquire the property, as I mentioned, through the proper channels, through what is expected, or if they acquire 40,000 square feet or more of contiguous land within the overlay itself. As we can see, though, those areas are kind of few and far between. You'd be hard pressed to really find 40,000 square feet of space that doesn't also touch the proposed Health and Life Sciences zone, the purple area here. But I believe that is the bulk of the presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions, as I did run through a good bit of information, so I'm happy to answer any questions as needed.
Before we open it to the public, does anyone in the council have any questions?
I do. Well, my main concern, and I'm so grateful that you're here, because it would have been great if we had this the last meeting when we had the first reading, because this map that we've just received this evening is slightly different than the
Yes.
map we originally received, and I see some additional overlay zone, whereas before these block and lot numbers were included in the hospital's
Yes.
zone, so it's good to see that. There is one property, and the map that I have has little orange crisscrosses of every property owned by Virtua.
Yes.
This doesn't have it, but the one that I'm looking at does. And so I noticed there's one property that is no longer, all the other properties that are not Virtua owned are now, in that little diagonal yellow line as R2 overlay zone, but there's the property at the corner of Jefferson and South Avenue. It doesn't have an orange crisscross to designate it as Virtua owned, but it also doesn't have the yellow diagonal lines that would designate overlay. So what is the consequence for that property?
If I'm not mistaken, and thank
Terry,
you.
Terry, which one are you talking about?
It looks like the VFW. It's on the corner of Jefferson and South Avenue. Because I was, yeah, because I was literally looking at like every block and lot number.
Tara?
Yeah.
I was writing down as I was listening to Pat, and one of the things that I wrote down was that is the VFW Association.
Yeah.
Right? That's block 10201, lot 50.01. Right now, that's currently an OB zone, which is a office building zone.
Yes.
That's there.
Correct.
Would anybody on this council have anything against making a change to this, or just say that that's a OB zone that's there?
You want to explain to what the OB zone is?
It's a office building zone, is what that is. So, we can do an
What's the
OB.
question?
Leaving it an OB zone with an HL overlay, meaning if at some point in the future, just like the R2 areas, if someone were to sell for qualified
Right.
use, and only then would it change the zoning. So it would have no net change if something happens to the VFW.
Yeah, just looking at every single block and lot that isn't currently owned by Virtua, where there's a lot of private residences, that was my main concern, to make sure that they're included in the overlay zone. And then to follow up, thank you for the documents. I kind of skimmed through, we just got them at the meeting. I'd really like to understand, so I can feel comfortable with my vote, and also for the members of the public, what are any and all consequences of this new district for anyone that owns property in the overlay? Like, just all, because I think that is what most people are concerned about. And if it's nothing, then I'm happy to have been overreactive, because I just was very concerned about the possible consequences of anything that someone might want to do to the property.
Yeah, I would respond in saying that, the potential consequences are that which are relatively, I don't want to say standard, but, you may come across as a property owner next to a use that requires a lot of land. Very land-intensive uses may over time approach adjacent property owners in earnest and providing, in just inquiry of, would you ever consider selling your property? And I think that that's not really that foreign of a concept here for the.
Can you speak in a microphone, please?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, real quick, I think what she was referring to is for anyone currently on this map where it shows an R2 zone.
Yes.
Right? What is the impact for those individuals living at their residences in the current R2 zone once and if this passes to include an overlay zone for those existing R2 zones?
Yeah.
Is there any changes with your day-to-day, anything that they cannot do? Does it give the hospital any additional pool to do anything? I mean, I know all the answers to this, but I want to make sure that that is addressed, because I know that there's a lot of people that are here who are generally concerned. I would be here myself tonight, If I didn't have the knowledge I know from talking with you today and everything else.
Absolutely. So, overlay zoning, maintains the underlying zoning that's there. And so changes that any homeowner in the existing R2 zone, really are, there wouldn't be any changes, in earnest. Their zoning remains the same underlying. And if residential uses were to continue on these properties, as long as the zone is established as such, it would be totally permissible and by right.
So if someone in that zone decides to put their house up for sale and another person from another state comes, moves in there, it's still R2, nothing changes unless there's a qualified use change that's listed under medical, et cetera, in which then they can then follow the steps of them having to have adjacent property and or 40,000 square foot requirements and applications to the planning board.
Yes, that is correct. So that if a property owner or, a residential use property were to be sold or change hands and maintain as residential use, it would stay the same. There would be no significant detriment to the underlying zoning because it's established and it's historical residential use. And then as Mr. Falco mentioned, any future change that may come about has to meet those specific conditions that I specified. And that comes as it comes. You can't kind of predict that, but those specific conditions were considered to respect those existing residential uses.
I have one question. Were the property owners, have the property owners within this overlay been notified? Have they been notified of this? For example, anybody on KP?
Nope. Nobody.
Nobody. They're not legally, we're not legally obligated to do that, to do a special measure.
Okay.
Pick up wire.
Basically, we're not legally obligated to let the residents know at this particular time, but once this is through, or if it passes, we'll send out the same notification out to everyone who has been impacted by this.
I can understand that we're not legally obligated, that, I get that, but I think we could do better than legally obligated. Because I don't know, I think a lot of this has been word of mouth, and they could have had an opportunity to at least come and ask questions. We could have been having this conversation earlier, or even less conversation, maybe this would have been a little bit better understood by all of us, quite honestly. Just two seconds.
Any additional questions before we open up to the public?
No, the only thing that I would like to add is what I brought up a little earlier is, in the existing ordinance, I'd like to add within the chart, block 10201, block 5001, to state that it'll go from OB to OB with HL overlay, as opposed to just.
Is this EFW
Correct.
property?
Yes.
Okay.
So, do you need to make a motion to amend it?
Is that what that was?
We haven't even, we
Yeah.
haven't even amended. Let's
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you, okay.
We can't hear anything back here, everything's mumbled. Yeah, I think it is too.
So now we're gonna open it up to the public. We're gonna start with this ordinance only. We'll start with the first row. If anyone have any questions or comments, we'll come up to the podium, state your name.
You wanna go first?
Address.
And if you can just check, make sure the little buttons press up there, the screen.
Yeah, sure, make sure.
There you go.
All right, so my name is Scott Hubbard. I own a property in the overlay area,
State your address.
191 Jefferson Avenue. 1020286 is my block and lot. So my family's owned that property since 1954. We've always known that it's possible that the hospital might want to acquire that property someday. I mean, I think anybody who is adjacent to Virtuous property understands that. But it's different to have your property labeled in a zone. And there's no doubt in my mind that I'm gonna lose property value as soon as this thing clears. My property value is going right It's going down. Nobody here, if you had a choice between two homes, one that was just R2, not in any type of zone, and one that was R2 in a overlay zone, nobody here would pay the same price for an equal house. Unless I'm wrong, I mean, I'm open-minded. If someone can tell me why this would be, why I should want to be in the overlay zone. Because your letter said it's to protect, one of the reasons is to protect existing property owners, so I'm all ears.
I'm sorry, I'm seeing this at the same time as you, so I don't have an answer as to what the thought process was behind saying this was protecting, I don't know, I cannot answer that question.
Well, it's protecting the current status of the,
So
that's protection, so nobody is losing anything. in that
So what
situation.
we're considering protection, I'm not saying how I feel the way, but what we're saying is, we're not immediately moving into the new zone. We're allowing it to be an overlay, that is a protection, is that what you're saying?
It's a protection where you're not losing, if the zone is not changing in terms of you're not losing anything.
Okay.
And why not just leave it alone? Why do we need to be, why does my property need to be labeled this way? Just leave it alone.
Well, and I will say too, in terms of protecting the surrounding residential area, I think part of that goes into how the proposed controls or what the overlay accomplishes, that it's not reaching into the existing rights of the residents, in the sense of the underlying zoning would maintain its residential usability. And that isn't proposed to change. It's not saying that it's going to change. It's not saying that. It's really just providing along those boundaries of those lands that are already owned by the hospital, through the proper channels that could expand, but we don't know. It's far off into the future. The bigger concern, and really the reason why the overlay mechanism was contemplated, was to preserve and protect the existing residential uses, because it maintains their ability to stay as such.
And Patrick, these properties are still gonna be labeled as R2 until such time that there's a qualifying purchase. And then only then, after visiting the planning board or meeting the requirements, would it change to HL. So all the residents will still be in an R2 zone and
Yeah.
labeled as such.
Yes, that is correct.
So that label is not changing, it's still gonna be R2.
But again, and I won't beat a dead horse, I'm sure others want to speak, but if I have my home up for sale, let's say 2 years from now, and I'm in the overlay zone, and my neighbor is not, and our homes are identical, my home is worth less. Any realtor or any real estate attorney worth their salt is gonna point that out to the buyer, that this home is in some type of special zone. And there is no benefit to me whatsoever, and I'd like to be removed from the overlay zone. Because my property is really an expansion. Most of your overlay is kind of, the rest of the property is already kind of surrounding it. You see like this big area here, you already got your arms around that area. I'm an expansion. I don't even know what they would even think about doing with me over here. I'm way on the other side of Jefferson Avenue. And there's six lots on that side of the street. You guys want the VFW, then you skip 3 lots, and then you grab mine and my neighbors. Why did they skip the 3 lots in the middle?
Well, I would say, first and foremost, it's not sort of grabbing. I feel like it really is putting that overlay on. But I will say that those areas too across Jefferson Avenue, you mentioned being surrounded on all sides, right? And, respecting kind of how the current layout of the zoning district is as what's proposed. Should that really extend, that's a larger swath of land that's not adjacent to the current hospital-owned properties. So like those areas north of the VFW, like you mentioned, it's across Jefferson Avenue. And so any sort of application or,
That's where I am. I'm on the other side of Jefferson Avenue.
and the zoning district boundaries would straddle the street, would straddle the midline of Jefferson Avenue as proposed. And so you're adjacent to it in the sense of there's no private property between the proposed boundaries that coincide with the hospital-owned properties and your lot.
Well, is there any recourse to be removed from the overlay zone? I don't want to be in the overlay zone.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Mr. Walters.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kyle Miller. I live on Madison Avenue. Family's been around a while. I was in John Hancock. I don't have his writing skills, but I do have determination. And I would like to speak on all the people, and if anybody's in the room here tonight, who got ripped off the last time the hospital bought a bunch of houses. I used to live at 148 Greenwood. And everybody got railroaded again. Some of the elderly people wound up dying of the stress of being forced into moving because some people before that phase had eminent domain. Now, me and my neighbors are forced with a decision of having God knows what right behind our houses on Madison Avenue. I've heard everything from a medical water growing facility to a medical waste plant and every other god awful thing under the sun. And I know by experience, the hospital does not keep their word on anything. I would like to know what exactly is going on in these pink areas and what reassurance as we as taxpayers and landowners are going to have the value of our property in the near future or far future. Because you, young man, I'm sure weren't around here 22 years ago when the hospital forced us out of our houses, only to do nothing. I had 2 days to get my sick husband out of the house and moved after he was born. I had cancer things done myself. 2 days. 2 years later, they bulldozed those houses, but they gave me 2 days. Now it's 22 years later, and they're finally deciding to torture us again. I don't think the victims of this town deserve that. There are some good people in this town that have good values and want to have a town that has its historical value intact. And by tearing houses down already, which they have already done back there, just puts the fear in people's hearts. It is not fair to people like me who have to come out of my house when I'm sick on my day off to address this issue that shouldn't have to be addressed anyway. The hospital had their choice and chance to do all this stuff 30, 40 years ago and never did. They had a chance to have their parking garage put up, but they were too cheap to do anything about it. I want to know how we as a town are going to make sure we don't get railroaded like everybody, including myself, has in the past. Because the railroad tracks are a symbol of that right here. So how are all these good people here going to handle what the hospital is going to do now? I want to have actual layouts of drawings of what all this stuff is going to look like. Not some little pink thing that looks like a woodpecker that's going to peck our houses down in the next couple of years. It does, doesn't it? It looks like a little woodpecker. I want to know exactly when, where, and how. Because before I was phased out, and all my neighborhoods in Greenwood, Spring, and all them years back, there was a nice man that lived right at the corner where the hospital is now, where the little arborvitae are. Nice Mr. Farina, super nice little man. Had a cute little house with heirloom fig trees and heirloom rose bushes, and they forced that man to an early grave. And then they railroaded his kids after he died. And I've seen that happen on my Greenwood Street too, and other streets. And it's not fair. It's not fair to anybody to be forced from their home over and over. This has happened to me twice now. And it's not fair to anybody in this town. And if you have a soul, sir, you will explain exactly what they're going to do. Goodbye.
Well, first and foremost, I would like to say that I do apologize. My heart does go out for people that face kind of the negative consequences of eminent domain. Historically, it really just has created not a great pattern in terms of having harmonious and surrounding uses. So my heart does go out to you for what you faced with that. I will say in contemplation with this overlay, and sort of how the hospital developed, or as you mentioned, may have not developed the land in the years. This is not a taking. This is not the use of eminent domain. This is not clearing the land and hopefully, the hospital will be able to build it in however many years. This is really maintaining the existing zoning that's underneath and not changing that underlying zoning, not changing the residential character of that area. And then should the hospital have the capital and the plans to do things in that area, and they go through the proper channels by making proper purchases of the property, it just allows them to do what's in the surrounding zoning as established in the OB and now the HL zone. So I would say that my response to that is that this is far different from the use of eminent domain and forcing people out of their homes, because really this zoning recognizes that balance that needs to be maintained, and it recognizes how great of a residential area it is by saying that it should remain as such with the underlying zoning, staying how it is.
Well, where is it? Where is everything gonna go? Where are the drawings of it?
We're gonna move on. We can address your comments after everyone else gets a chance to speak.
Yeah, my name is Louis Lopez. I live in 98 Ellis Drive. I have two questions. Can you maybe if I could come out and show you the point? I got a question. I was talking about D2 spot. Can you clarify again this and this?
So this property here, for reference,
Which property are you referring to?
the block and lots that were referenced were block 112.01, lot 66, and block 112.04, I guess lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. So to answer the first thing in terms of block 112.01, lot 66, based on the property tax data that was reviewed in preparation for this, those are owned by Virtua already. They are currently outside of the OB zone. They're in the R2 zone. So they sort of own property that they can't expand the medical facilities into because medical uses aren't permitted in the R2 zone. That's answering that bit. And in terms of block 112.04, lots 1, 2, and 3, those are just residential properties that are really sandwiched between the township boundary there and properties that are owned by Virtua. And so that's why they were proposed to maintain their R2 zoning, their underlying R2 zoning, to stay with the overlay as opposed to having the zoning changed. So that's why it was proposed to remain as such, to just stay as R2 with the overlay.
My last question is, doesn't it affect my Highly Rehab? Does that offer, I think, Richard A?
One more time, Louis.
My Highly Rehab?
Mahaly Rehab building. You talking about the Mahaly Rehab building, Louis?
Is that not going to affect their building?
I think it's virtual.
You know, people are going,
I think that's already zoned in the office OB zone.
If it's-
Lumberton, that's actually Lumberton. Yeah, that's in Lumberton.
can you repeat that again?
It's in
That property is in Lumberton.
Oh, okay. And that's it. What about, it's going to affect 98 and 100 Madison Avenue?
I don't know which blocks and lots those are off the top of my head.
I don't know what the blocking about, just know the address.
Is it near Cross Street Hall?
Yeah, across the street from the hospital. Madison Avenue, 98 and 100.
Madison off of Cedar?
Uh,
I think
north,
Cedar's across the street.
off of Cedar, at the intersection of Madison and Cedar. So those are proposed, and as I know currently, those are kind of a collection of medical uses within a singular building. It's condo office, I
I
believe.
think they're right across from there. I think they're, the houses, I think they're not in the zone.
Oh, north of Cedar Street?
Yes.
Oh, there's no proposed changes for them.
Okay,
They're
thank you.
proposed to remain R2.
That's all the question I have. Thank
So they're
you.
not yours. Next.
Nick Sedano, 47 Garden Street. I have a few questions. One is for you. Sorry for it.
My name's Pat Van Burnham.
You have studiously used proper channels when talking about the hospital acquiring things. Does that just mean a purchase, a negotiated purchase?
Yeah, qualified negotiated purchase.
Qualified. So my biggest concern is the use of eminent domain. We're not there yet because there's another step you have to take. You have to call redevelopment zone that has not been done. And so when you use that term, my ears are pricked up for anything that sounds like it could be eminent domain. Our town went through that one time. It was exceptionally ugly. I never want to see that happen to another resident in this town. So that's the first thing I want to say. Second thing I want to say is the fact that we're not obligated to tell people is just not a good reason not to tell them. So we should reach out to all those neighbors and let them know that this thing's happening. And you've given some assurances in the documents you brought out tonight, first time I'm seeing, that all their rights would be preserved. And it sounds like the way it's written, they can agree to sell or not sell, and they're fine. So that doesn't sound like eminent domain to me, so that's a relief.
Yeah, this does not contemplate any use of eminent domain. And I will say too, just speaking as to the Township's master plan re-examination report that was adopted, it was specifically recognized to protect and preserve these surrounding residential areas. And in my opinion, the use of eminent domain would not do that. And so, as this does not contemplate the use of eminent domain, as this doesn't, consider it.
It does put a target on the area though, so it shows that Virtual wants to expand into that area. And the thinking is that if they don't get a property, if they want to go there and don't get it, then they come to the township and they go, we need your help. And that's when it happens. So that could be years from now. All right, it's speculation, but we've already been through it once. So there's sort of a trauma here. All right, last point is, we really need to tell these residents before this thing's a done deal. I'm sorry, that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Sedano. Next.
Happy Wednesday, Maureen Taylor Ford, 117 Brand Street. Here in support of my neighbors that live in the area over there. I don't know your name, the new attorney here. I guess my question is, following up what Nick said about speculation. I'm just a resident looking in, and I'm not a Jersey girl, so I'm just in this town observing things that I've seen. When I'm listening to this other lady and this gentleman here say 1954 his family owned the property. We have sitting members here on our council that are on our planning board. Okay, we do. So you say, one of your things you said here was capital gains, property, in the future, all this good stuff, likelihood. So the likelihood, say the next 22 more years, because she said it took 22 years, I don't know how many of us will still be sitting on this council in 22 years. I don't know if the two sitting members will still be on the planning board in 22 years. Okay, but I think it's gonna happen way before 22 years. My thing is, Rich and Mayor Banks, do you guys vote on the planning board on this issue, or do you abstain your vote from this? Are you voting members? If this was to come to terms, hypothetically speculating all day long, in the next, we'll give it 5 good years. And hypothetically, you two are still sitting members of the planning board. Where's your vote at right now for that? Can you challenge yourself and ask yourself that for your community, where's your vote at right now? If this thing was to come to head in 5 years, and everything just went 100%, and the hospital got that capital gain that they've been looking for, or they got their young engineer to come and get the plans ready, because we have no plans, so obviously something is still in the works. That's my concern. I'm sitting, looking from the inside,
Maureen?
and I'm just asking, Rich.
Ms. Ford, can you give an example of what you're referring to as come before the planning board as a vote?
So, he said that, the planning board will decide, right? I think, the word Nick used was proper, he said proper planning, proper procedures. So when things happen in this town, from what I understand as a citizen, I'm still learning here, things have to pass through the planning board to get.
Oh, correct,
Right?
so regardless, so let's just, walk back for a quick
Okay.
second. Let's say that this wasn't a proposal tonight, to move forward to rename some zones.
Yes.
New zones. And we'll give the example of a random property that currently exists in the present R2 zone. There's nothing currently stopping a hospital or medical facility to approach a resident and offer them a certain amount of dollars to purchase that property today. And if that resident so chooses to make that sale go through, then that company or the hospital would own that property. And then should they want to put something there or develop it or change the use of that, they would have to go before the planning and zoning board with proper plans, site plan, and all the same things anyone else would have to do. And let's fast forward to this proposal where we take an R2 zone and we keep it in R2 zone, but we now amend it with that HL overlay zone. We've added a couple extra steps. I'm not gonna say to deter anybody, but it creates more steps for any qualifying use that would be medically related to do something with the property. So let's say you're now a resident in the R2 zone, which is now also has that overlay zone on it, right? And a qualifying use person or company, whether the hospital or some other medical facility, comes and approaches you and offers you a great deal for the property. And you say, you know what, this is great, I time to retire, I'll take the money and I'm gonna go move to Florida. Whatever the answer is, right? They buy that piece of property. That property has to be contiguously touching some other piece of property for them to be even change that to an HL zone. So if it's not contiguous, it can't be changed. And even if they buy one piece, they still can't do anything with that one piece unless they've acquired at minimum 40,000 square feet with that piece. And even if they have both of those check boxes, they still have to provide a qualified site plan, go to the planning and zoning board, and hear that board and perform before them on what they want to do with that piece before any zoning changes. So there's nothing automatic here. You have 3 steps that you go through and still pass to a secondary board to get the approval to get anything done over there. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
No, and I appreciate you explaining that, because it gives even more depth to it, I appreciate that. But again, this is all time. Time is one thing, change is constant. So it's all a matter of time. It could be 22 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 50 years. It's gonna happen, you're setting the foundation for it to happen. Because he already said, hey, just get rid of it. If you don't get rid of it, you're saying, my great grandkids who will be running up and down if there's a high street, they're gonna see that hospital, it's gonna happen. Because even as a citizen, I'm looking and I hear we have the growers, the distribution, the wheat, 3 different categories, but it's all still planning. I don't know, I just wanted to put my piece in it because I needed to understand, and I appreciate you explaining that to me, Rich, because it is a lot of steps, but it doesn't mean it's a lot of steps that will never get done. It's just a matter of time underneath the belt to get those steps done. And I feel what I'm reading from this is eventually it's gonna happen. It could be 50 years, okay? Virtue might have it in this long-term zone, you know? That's our goal, but not us, but Virtua. I don't know, I just wanted to bring that because I, a citizen in this town, I do have friends that live in that area who are not able to come here and speak tonight. So, thank you, Rich.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ms. Ford.
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Tice. I live at 189 Jefferson Avenue, at the very dead end next to the ravine. Mr. Hubbard is my neighbor. I've been there since 1967. I do not approve of what the hospital is doing. I don't like it at all. I've seen all these homes from Greenwood, South Spring, Bank, everything gone, and I'm looking at a lot. How much farther are you gonna go? This is ridiculous, number one. Number two, good news. I've got information tonight that finally, after how many, couple years or more, that they have an emergency grant coming to help build the side of my property from going down the hill. God bless you all. Thank you so much for trying to help me out. I'll be 84 in 3 weeks.
Happy birthday.
Hi, good evening. My name is Heather Mann. I reside at 70 Madison Avenue. I'm not originally from this area, but when I retired from the military, I decided to stay and start my roots here with my family. Being on Madison Avenue, I've been able to have a great relationship with my neighbors, who Miss Kyle's one of them, my direct neighbor. But the thing that is concerning to me is that what I've experienced, that I bought my house in 2014. Behind my house, where we have that little access road, we dealt with transients back there, sometimes coming on top of onto our property. And now the concern that I have is that if the expansion is gonna continue, it's going to be directly behind my house. My house has been a place for my sons to grow up, their friends to come and be in my yard, being safe, making healthy decisions, developing relationships, and just being kids, having a basketball court to play in. I come from New York City. I didn't have those same opportunities, but I was determined that once I settled down, invested my hard-earned money into my community, that this would be something that I could carry on from generation to generation. And now I'm seeing that as the hospital has expanded, and I can't complain too much about the hospital because they've been very helpful in my personal life. But I have also seen with a lot of my neighbors on both sides of me, and not to say that it's because of, the growing in the community, the zoning, but I've seen two of my very close neighbors die from cancer, from the same exact form of cancer. I have currently been in remission from cancer 2 times, but now I've been in remission for a little over a year and a half. And it's very concerning to have all these, I've had a lot of natural territory in my yard. The animals, I'm not seeing any of that. It was very relaxing for me in my community. It was very relaxing for me on my back deck to watch the animals. I'm not seeing any of that. All I'm hearing is the pounding and the drilling and the construction, and then seeing the transients throughout my property, and I feel that it's only gonna get worse. I don't wanna regret buying land and buying a home in Mount Holly, but if this continues, then I'm certainly gonna have to, do what I need to do to provide a safer environment, not only for my family, but for myself and my own health. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Brenda Waresick. I live at 30 Branch Street. We do own 2 homes on Madison Avenue, so we do have some skin in the game here, and I'm concerned about the area. First of all, I did go to the long range planning it was at the planning board. I specifically asked a question about the health science area. But it was it was in Fairground Plaza. Why was it moved? And I even asked, I said, the acne is there and all that. And wouldn't be happening for a long time. So why and when was this area moved across the street from Madison Avenue?
Brenda, I'm confused. You said that the area was moved from Fairground Plaza?
Yeah, that's what, when I came to the meeting that day and I asked about, because I was upset that the hospital was taking more of our community away. And at that point, it was up by Fairground Plaza.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, you don't remember any of that, but that was one of my concerns. So I did not know about this. We own two homes on Madison Avenue. We live on Branch Street, and when the business down the road from us, they did such a minor little thing, and they had to send out certified mail to all the people in the area. Now, I don't think this, what you're talking about tonight, is a little tiny thing. This is a major change. I was not notified. There was apparently no certified mail was sent out to all the owners in the area. This is something very important that everyone should have been made aware of. I think there's people here that I know that live there that would be very upset, I think, if they knew about it, but they don't even know about it. They don't even have a voice tonight, okay? And the overlaying zones, basically what you're telling the hospital is that this is R2 now, but this is an overlay zone. In other words, you are basically giving them permission. If I was someone at the hospital and I wanted to develop, I'd say, oh, look at that, look, that's an overlay position. They are going to give me that area. So you are basically telling the hospital, this is your area to expand. Now, if I live there and the person next to me sold their house to the hospital and this person sold their house to the hospital and I'm right here in between, these people both have sold their house to the hospital. So I understand what they're saying about living on Jefferson and being in the overlay area. You are putting their house value at risk. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but you're putting their value at risk because now I have an empty house next to me. I have an empty house on the other side of me because a hospital goes, oh, look, this is an overlay area. Ooh, I'm gonna go get that house right away. So buying up house after house, I may be the only house standing in that whole area. Okay, I think that's unfair to the residents that live in that area. So I'm asking you on council, let's take your house and move it into the overlay position. That's where you live. Is that what you want for your home, your children, your neighbors? Do you want to be moved into the overlay position? I don't know if I need to ask you one by one. Mr. Brown, do you want your house in the overlay position or you would not want it in the overlay position?
Just make your comments. This isn't a give and take. Ask,
Okay,
just make your
well,
comments.
It's upsetting, so each
Thank
one
you.
of you ask, okay, would you want your house in that area? Not only that, but historical, the New Gold house was demolished. That was a historical house that was moved from Madison Avenue, court ordered to the hospital to move it there to save it, and it was demolished.
Yep, right in our backyard.
Okay, now was just gone. Does the township give permission for houses to be demolished? Did you know it was gonna be demolished, or one day you just found out like me, like, oh, it's gone? That was a historic preservation house, so there needs to be a preservation commission to save these historical homes, okay? The hospital is basically a cancer in our town, and it's taking over. It's growing and growing and growing in our town. We are a very small community. We don't have room for them to keep coming and taking our residential areas, which you are putting those residential areas in an overlay area targeted to be gone. I would not want to live in the overlay area, and I praise God that my homes that we own are not. And that was one of the first things I checked. I got out, what block number, where are we at? Okay? So I suggest that the overlay area, first of all, I suggest everyone that is in that whole area so many feet away, even me, who lives down the road, or who's down the road on Madison Avenue, we get certified mail notifying us of even the plan. To me, it seems illegal. The poor business down the road just did a minor little thing and had to send us certified mail. This is a major thing affecting people's lives, and I think that's important. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Jackie DiCarlo, and I live at 24 Broad Street. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I feel like I have to reach out to Township Committee. Something has to change in Mount Holly. I grew up 2 doors from the VFW. That whole neighborhood was filled with families. We played Greenwood Avenue, Spout Spring Avenue, Bank Avenue, when there was a little store on the corner of Bank. I know I sound like an old lady, but the hospital destroyed that whole neighborhood, took all those homes, and now they want to go across the street and take another neighborhood. At some point, the hospital, this has to be controlled. At some point, all this expansion has to stop. The hospital is taking over our town, and I agree with Brenda. You as council members have to vote against this. This is just insane that the hospital just is allowed to do this. So somebody has to put a stop to it.
Good evening. My name is Jesse Gilby. I'm the commander of the VFW. And I just want to say a couple of things. Like the lady before me, I wasn't going to speak. But I'm under the impression that you said the property in purple, besides what the actual building that the VFW is located on, that is, the rest are owned by the hospital. But we have the deed showing that we own part of the parking lot that the hospital is on, right by block 101, lot 18.01 and 19. I just became the commander of the VFW just a year ago, but I'm understood that in the past we have sold other lots to the hospital. But I just want to ensure, because I have a lot of veterans that are in the community, and to ensure them that that place that was built in the 1940s, that is owned by the VFW, is still a safe haven for the community to come to, and us to provide to the community and the surrounding areas. We have a lot of neighbors, a lot of veterans in the area, that we want to make sure that they understand that we are fighting to ensure the safety of everybody in the community. And I know right now it's just zoning, and this is the first time that I've come to speak in a meeting. But again, I'm representing a larger community that's bigger than myself. I'm a retired military Marine. And
Thank you for your service.
Was that?
Thank you for your service.
It wasn't for all that. I just want to, I pride myself in serving my community, and I was elected as the commander of the VFW. And as a group, I just want to ensure them, when I go back to them, of what's going on and what's the plan for the future, and not give them misconceptions.
You know, I'll just like to speak for 1 quick second too, just for some added advice and some clarification. So obviously, the entire public has not yet had an opportunity to speak yet. We still have a couple of road people who are going to want to speak this evening. This council have not yet discussed amongst themselves or voted on this yet, so we're definitely listening to anyone who's coming up here and speaking upon their concerns and how they like things to turn out. But when it comes to protecting the city of VFW, which is the example of this, let's say the council voted tonight to not add any overlay zones to the R2 area, to keep R2 at the end of the day. It's still the VFW's responsibility and your members to ensure that someone doesn't offer you guys some money to buy that and take it out from under you.
Understood.
Regardless of whether it's R2 zone or R2 is an overlay, just make sure that that is the number one thing at the end of the day. Because even if we don't go to this overlay, that end result that you're concerned about can still occur and still exist if someone made the offer and someone signs off at your VFW. So I just want to make that very clear, to make sure. It's not, the council's not looking to take anybody's home, it's not looking to do anything of that nature. This is simply, like you mentioned, a zoning ordinance. But again, there's been no action taken on this. And, again, I think the entire council, thank you for your service, and also thank you for coming out this evening. I'm sure time with your families to express your concerns.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
I don't know how this thing works. Can you explain why we would, for example, the VFW is a good example of,
Yeah, why, for example, would the VFW property, which is not currently owned by, Virtua, not just be another of the, overlay, which would maintain its current?
Kim, that's what I brought up when Tara was bringing it up. I said it should be part, as it should be.
Oh, is that what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, I
You
said,
changed that?
yeah, right now it's zoned OB
Okay,
for
right.
office business space.
Understood.
And I would want to see it be office OB with racial overlay, not just a big zone.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Eric Johnson. I live here on Blue Jay Lane. I'm
Speak into the mic, Doc.
Lean up to the mic, hon.
I'm Eric Johnson. I live at Blue Jay Lane. I am a member of the VFW and have been a member better than 30-some odd years. What I'm afraid of is we cannot continue to lose homes for great people that have lived there. You know, you have victims who have become part of the overlay. The reason why I know that this happens, I've been on the planning board from 1984 to 2008. So I've seen master plan after master plan. I've offered help and advice. Not that I'm going to do such a wonderful thing, but I do know a little something about the township. I do know something about the hospital. And you've got wonderful people that live in that neighborhood. And then when I heard VFW, I'm thinking, here I have gone and served. I've come back home. I used to run 12 miles. I can barely get off my bed. I live in pain, 365, 7 days a week. You understand what I'm saying? And then when I hear the wonderful people of this town, so I urge our council, consider that. I know basically a lot of the families here better than 40-some odd years, and I go back longer than that. But what I'm saying here, we are a family here in Mount Holly. And we need to continue to stay that way. So as the leaders of our town, we're saying consider that. And I can say, most of you on the council, I know each and every one of you. And I know you have families, beautiful families. We are your family. Just want you to consider that. I was happy to see the commander here. Because I'm saying, am I going to be the only one here from the VFW? And then I looked up and I saw him. And I wasn't going to say one word tonight. Because you know what, I've seen people walk past one another and not speak. That's not Mount Holly. That's not who we are. We are better than that. So tonight, consider all the voices that were here that have health conditions and things like that. I'm a medical professional and had to come out because of the situations that have happened to me. I'm glad that I've served with some of the most elite units in the Army, and I wouldn't change one thing. So I wanted to say good night to everyone, be well, and please consider the family of Mount Holly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service.
Kopovas, 100 Madison Avenue. I'm gonna start with a few questions, if you have answers to those. My first would be just the property tax implications. My understanding from the plan that was presented by Virtua back in the summer with their expanded patient tower on the property that they already own is that there would be no increase in the payment that they make in lieu of property tax because we're in an agreement with them that's based on the number of beds, and that's all locked in. If they were to acquire or expand into the new HL zone and or the overlay, would they still be locked into that same rate or amount as they continue to sort of gobble up residential properties that do pay property taxes?
This is a good question.
I don't believe so. No, that would be a separate agreement. That would be most likely a condition that would be associated with some sort of planning board review. Ultimately, that agreement would have to be revisited, yes.
Okay, thank you. My next question was, is there anything that Virtua has reached out to Mount Holly and sort of offered as part of this? If their intention is to be a community hospital with a greater physical community presence, are they offering anything to the residents of Mount Holly? Or I'm not sure that they would be subject to kind of UEZ rules, but I know under UEZ there's preference given to hiring members of the community and things like that. Like, have they offered sort of anything for all of this?
As of this time, we didn't hear anything from Virtua in regards to that. They didn't decline to come to the meeting tonight, but they are open for additional questions. So you can reach out to them and get those answers for you.
Okay, and I mean, that's great, but if there's a vote taken tonight, it's a little too late. But I would love to, and it's kind of concerning to me that they declined to come to this meeting. No one could come to talk about all this. And I'll just also say, like I said, I came to the planning board meeting where the expanded patient tower across the street from me was discussed, that is currently in an open lot. You know, like, I don't have opposition to that. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, like, be difficult, but this is so much more than that, and this is such a potential overreach. And I asked this question at the last meeting I was at, and at this point I can't remember if it was council or planning board. It was planning board. I asked if there were any studies done, if there's any information from maybe our professionals who do the master plan about how this affects property values, how this affects the community when something like this is undertaken. Because as my property is just outside, I'm sitting on like one side that's HL and one side that would be the overlay. So I'm not within it, but I don't have any kind of delusions about how I'm gonna be Mr. Frederickson from up, you know, with like everything up around me. And so I have concerns about my property values, like somebody else brought up, being even up against this zone and changing even the current OB zone, with even just the kinds of businesses that are laid out, that are allowed in this new zone. It's far from limited to just like medical facilities, right? Like, there's gyms, there's like daycares, there's all kinds of things. So my concern is even, I don't see anything like in our regular OB zone that would limit like hours of operation. Like, am I gonna have a 24-hour gym potentially, you know, in my backyard, or like things of that nature? Same with like, it lists, you know, retail, gift shops, like all kinds of things. So am I gonna be living kind of in the middle of a strip mall, you know, that just is kind of loosely attached to some of these medical facilities? So is there any limitation then on like hours of operation or anything like that in this zone that is normally applicable in the OB zone?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, if an application were to come forth for one of the uses that you may be concerned about, you know, those would be discussed at the board level in terms of restricting hours and things like that. And I don't have the entire code book in front of me to review, but I would say that, you know, that would be discussed at the application level. And that would most likely be included as a condition of those uses. So if there was a limitation on the hours or such.
Okay, so most likely, but not written into this.
We have ordinances about 24-hour businesses already on the books, right? I can't remember, like pharmacies, like there's certain types of businesses, you would know better than me, Coleman, but I would imagine that if they wanted to open something that did not adhere to that, they'd have to get that variance in the moment.
Okay,
When they have a
right,
compliant for them, yeah.
okay. And I'm still just thinking, though, I could have a 24-hour Virtua gym, I could have a 24-hour Virtua, you know, pharmacy next, like in my backyard, you know, with the lights. Okay. I also have some concerns just about the size of Cedar Street, right? Like I live on the corner of Madison and Cedar, and you know, I mean, I have to be careful leaving my driveway if somebody's leaving the office building. So I don't know if there are any plans related to expanding the streets if we're adding kind of business traffic, especially, you know, right now tucked back there, besides that small office building in the Githa Center. Sorry. You know, it's houses. Now if we're putting in a bunch of like office buildings or, you know, adult or child care facilities and things like that, like so is there anything in sort of with like traffic planning with this, or?
They would all be issues that would surface at planning board application. It's respectfully, it's just pure speculation to sit here. We could sit here all night and you and I could go back and forth with examples, say, well, if this use comes in, what are the implications of that use? All the answers to your questions would surface at a planning board application. Would there be a community impact statement? Would there be an environmental impact statement? Would the planner suggest that the roads, as you say, at Cedar and Madison, have to have improvements because of the XYZ use that may come? For us to sit here and speculate about this, we don't have those answers.
No, and I'm just trying to understand like what is encompassed at this level and then what would be at the other level to kind of get some clarity on that. And then sort of my last statement that just echoes some of the other residents and my neighbors is just the complete lack of transparency about this. And you know, the legal minimum is the literal floor of transparency and accountability, and the fact that most of my neighbors don't even know that this was up. And you were directly asked, Mayor Banks, if there were residents that would be included in these zoning changes, and you said no. So
I wasn't at that time. You know, I was assuming that it was not what we was told. So I mistakenly said that. So I apologize.
okay, and I appreciate the apology, but then what that leads to is the public's not informed, and so even if we are coming out to meetings and asking the right questions, if the people on these boards and committees are not sure and give us wrong information, then people aren't going to come out because they don't even know that this is possible. And if we can't even make the effort to send certified mail, to let people know literally your house, your property is up for discussion to be rezoned, which could affect future property values and future uses, it's just not right. It might be legal, but it's not right. And I know this is about this ordinance in particular, but I can't help but then think about, you know, the final resolution on tonight's agenda, where then council is asking to be allowed to post, you know, the information, and we can't get information or accurate information. So I know this will probably have no impact, but I would ask you to at least table this so that the people directly affected by this have the opportunity to come and speak as well.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Is there anyone else that want to speak on this ordinance only? Please step forward.
Michael Rothmel, 33 Union Street. Basically, first thing, Is the pink area in this map already owned by the hospital?
Yes.
Okay, which include, what?
No, not all of it.
Not all of it?
The maps that they have don't have hash marks that show, Virtua owned versus not Virtua owned.
Yeah, the pink area, and I need to see the map that you're specifically. Yeah, so the pink area here is this larger one. It's a little bit easier to see. So it's just the proposed HL zoning district boundaries, which a majority of them are owned by the hospital. The areas on this map that aren't this sort of blue overlay with these crosses, those are not owned by the hospital. So it's these lots here along Cedar, it's the VFW lot, and the blue areas with the orange crosses are owned by the hospital. Yep, that's correct. Majority, yes.
Okay, thank you. Because it seems a lot of it is vacant, so I would question the need to add the R2 zone. And I think it's clear, when I was growing up in Overlook Park in Philadelphia. And I was about 10, and my parents moved to Havertown. At that time, I think the FHA was still redlining areas, and areas that were mostly Negro would not be eligible for FHA loans. And so what real estate agents would do was move in one black family, and it created white flight. And I think what you're doing here is you're setting up the same thing for Virtua, where they can buy a house or two houses, and then you'll get flight of everybody else. I think Brenda referenced that fact, and the gentleman over here referenced that fact with decreased property values. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. And you've created a lunch menu for Virtua to decide where they want to eat for breakfast, where they want to eat for lunch with this map. And then we also have people talking about they have to go through proper channels. We do know Virtua is a wealthy not-for-profit, and they got lawyers. These people here can't afford the lawyers that Virtua can afford. So when you say they'll have to go through proper channels, they will go through proper channels, they'll manipulate the system, and they'll get what they want. And everybody here who doesn't like it won't have any chance to fight them, because it's just not possible. In addition, so what you're doing, you're creating blockbusting, and you're creating an inability for the people who own homes to fight them. And you're creating also a market where people aren't going to want to buy, so it's going to lower property values. In addition, there's some things that nobody else has talked about yet. Number one, section 5 on page 6 of the agenda says that drainage ditches are open space. That's absurd. You can't utilize open space for any type of recreation. It's a drainage ditch. And that's something you want to do. It's a gift to Virtua. They can also do gas and parking lots and things like that. Also, you have to worry about the tree ordinance that the township would choose to enforce it, because obviously they're going to have to pull those trees if they buy this. So this is just bad for the township. There's already, looks like, plenty of vacant land they can build upon, and it's just a danger to the residents, and it's just simply letting the hospital overuse. Not to mention, when they buy these properties, we're going to lose properties on the tax rolls, which we already don't have enough. We have too many pilots and not enough property tax paying people anyway. So it's bad for the township policy-wise. You get nothing, Virtua gets everything. It's not worth voting for. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jeff Eversmeyer, 203 Broad Street. As you guys, you 5 members up there were voted in to protect the welfare of the citizens of Mount Holly. That's your job. This hospital zone that you're coming in, if the hospital zone is protecting the residents, I can't understand why we have to, and you said people, if they want to buy it and it's R2 or R3, how are you protecting them? You're just putting a target on the zone. You're saying this is what the hospital wants right now, and you're in that zone. And as we know, the hospital took over a lot of houses, but we get property tax relief for all the houses they took already 25 years ago, and they built nothing. They built nothing. They leveled the houses, destroyed the neighborhoods, and didn't build anything in those lots. Years ago, on Madison Avenue, we woke up one morning, and the hospital was tearing down all the Victorian homes on Madison Avenue. just leveled them. We saved one, the Newbold house. We sued them. They stopped, and then, out of the goodness of their heart, they moved it to another spot. When you guys started passing these new zones and the stuff that's going on, guess what happened? You probably know. Does the council know what happened? They have no respect for the historic nature of our town. They bulldozed it. As soon as they knew they thought they were getting somewhere, they just took it down. I don't know whether they got approvals or they just sent their demolition crew and took it down. This is ridiculous. You actually think, you want the residents here to believe that this is in their best interest. What are they doing for the residents? You tell me one thing that by building this hospital zone is gonna help the residents. And if they don't get what they want, guess what? I guess you guys all forget, where was the hospital going to? 10 years ago. They weren't staying in Mount Holly. They were going to West Hampton building. And they got sued and they fought, they tried to destroy the farmers over there, and they fought them and fought them and fought them. And I guess the farmers won. So now they're back to Mount Holly. Will we even be talking about this right now if they moved to West Hampton? They were gonna abandon the hospital, that was my understanding. And they hadn't built a thing. They just took houses and our property taxes. If they took away $100,000 or $1 million worth of our property taxes, are the rest of the residents who are the people who vote you in, are they the ones who have to make it up? Because you don't negotiate in advance. Listen, you take a house, there's $20,000 worth of property taxes, you gotta pay $20,000. We're gonna talk about this later. And we have an attorney here right now who's a real estate attorney. He can answer all these questions about values of property and eminent domain. I actually own that property, Center Stage Antiques and a lot across the street. Guess what? You guys did. You just designated an area of redevelopment. Did you know that? Or you remember that? You guys, I know one member was on this council. Well, guess what else? I just looked up the paperwork. Guess what? They can use eminent domain. What? When they redevelop, area of redevelopment, never gonna happen. But in my paperwork, it says they can use eminent domain. So you're telling us all something, and it doesn't affect you guys because you don't live there. But the residents live there, and those are the people you're here to protect. Not yourselves. I don't know what is Mount Holly getting? Tell me something that Mount Holly's getting by building this hospital here. If they build it, there's not even a plan to build or what they're gonna build. So if you're gonna give all this approvals, I think we should know what they're gonna even build to start with. Everything's speculation. You guys are planning something on speculation, not facts. Say, listen, we're gonna spend $100 billion in Mount Holly. We're gonna hire people, or we're gonna do this. None of that's even in the equation yet. You guys haven't done any of your due diligence, none of it. And you're gonna vote on something that affects every resident in Mount Holly, not only where they live, but all the residents who are gonna have to pay for your misdeeds. So you guys better think about it before you do something. I think you ought to table it. Every resident there should know, because I don't think there's one that wants this done. They don't want to be in the zone. Leave us in the R3, we'll take our chances.
Yes.
You think you're protecting them? Tell me how you're protecting them. And I think you know you're not.
Hi, Arlene Pfeiffer, 494 Mary Street. I've been around long enough to see what happened to our neighborhoods around the hospital. We've got no tax money for that, and they sit vacant. Anybody remember the acquisition of Hogan's Farm? 111 acres? $10.9 million that is still sitting there open. What are we doing? It's still sitting open. I was there with all the meetings when Virtua was fighting with the farmer across the street. They basically didn't cross their T's and dot their I's, and they lost that property to the farm below for, I think it was Right to Farm Act. That farmer's died. Why hasn't Virtua reapproached that farm? They're selling it. That would have been the best spot to go back to now that we're gonna have a homeless center there. We have our welfare, our human services building. That farmer's gone. That place could be turned into some kind of leisure, some kind of open space that the hospital could use. But this is where Virtua's gone, and it's not helped any of us yet. We don't need this congestion in our town. Take it back out to West Hampton, where you have 110 acres there on 10.9 million. I believe there's also property behind the White Dot in Southampton on 38 that they had purchased years ago. I just think we're overburdening Mount Holly, and I don't see a positive. I don't see a positive, and I just see our residents being hurt again. Thank you.
Hi guys, we own 21 Ridge Avenue. You've been here for 36 years? We only found about this yesterday.
State your name, address.
I'm sorry?
State your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Doyle?
Robin Doyle,
We only found out about this yesterday.
because it only goes to social media.
We were just, my daughter was born in that house, and we just decided to put her in and sell it to her. So by doing this, we're right that zone, my property right is gonna die down, and she's gonna be very hurt because she looks forward to going in that house. That's where she was born. So, I mean, you're affecting the town. You're affecting all these property owners, because as soon as you do this, the value will drop down. And my daughter was looking forward to knowing where she was born. I'm a little nervous, so that's why I'm a little shaky, so I'm sorry. But I beg you not to do this. I bet you half of the people don't know about the music.
No, they don't, because they would have been here if they know. Like I said, the only reason we found out is because of social media. A lot of people aren't on social media, a lot of the older people that live in this town.
But as soon as this is passed, my property value is gonna die.
My taxes won't go down, but my property's going to
So I ask you to reconsider this. And at least make sure everybody in that area knows about it. Like I said, we just found out yesterday. That's not fair to us. That's it. Thank you.
My name is Mark Wood. I'm at 120 Haley Avenue. And I seem to be right in the middle of the hot zone. And I'm not sure that I came a little late to the game because I too was unaware of this until someone came and knocked on my door earlier today and asked if we knew about it. And so I'm not sure I understand the HLO on Haley versus some of the other zoning that is there. So does that mean that our area there, which is primarily residents other than the school that's there, is that make it more of a target than other areas? I don't want any area around to be any more target than it's been over the years, but does that make us more a target?
Pat, you want to explain to him what the difference between the two current zones and what the HLO is going to be?
Yeah, so, currently the R2 zone is there, and it would stay there as such. The overlay just would be placed on top of it, but the existing zoning controls, the existing ability in that zone would stay. And, the overlay is, again, just looking at the gradual evolution and wouldn't target, doesn't work to change the zoning that's underneath there. It really just works to maintain it and preserve the residential use that's been there.
Well, it seems to me that this is a little more out of the way than some of the more glaring areas where you would see everything on Madison as you do now. I've watched over the years. I'm ashamed as a resident to say that I've watched over the years all the houses and just recently all the buildings. And then for me to watch the Newbold house get torn down right at the top of my street, and it was in the darkness of, it wasn't done during business hours for the most part. It was done where most people wouldn't see what was going on. And it's quite disturbing. So I don't know. It seems to me that these areas that are considered the overlay are more of a hot zone than some of the others. And like I said, I don't want any of my neighbors to have any sort of thing with eminent domain. And, my house is paid off. And I'm watching our neighborhood start to come back. People are buying the houses in our neighborhood. Investment people are buying the houses and fixing them up and they're selling them. I was there many years ago when the fights went on initially when I moved there. I'm 35 years in this house. And I was there when the hospital was approaching homeowners, and they were approaching the elderly first.
Yep, that's right.
They went to the elderly first because they were the most frail, and there was a bunch of them, and they were coming to me, and they were asking me, what do I do? I said, you get a family member involved, get somebody else involved that understands what they're doing. They tried this before, And like I said, I'm ashamed to say that I've watched many parts of Mount Holly deteriorate around the hospital into nothing but parking lots and fences. And it's terrible to watch, and I'm still not understanding, you know, what the yellow stripe area is. I don't. You know, so if you if somebody at the hospital buys a house, like everybody said, they buy the 3 homes in a row, buy the house on the end, the house in the middle, you got the one left over. I mean, that's gonna be mine, by the way.
Well, and I would say, first off, too, you mentioned, as I kind of mentioned before, you know, really the conversation about eminent domain is not what this is. The overlay zone, the overlay establishment is kind of totally different realms in terms of planning and zoning. And then, you know, as we mentioned before too, there's a number of combinations of, you know, 2 on one side, 1 on the other. That, you know, it's really just, you know, it's hard to really say it at this point. And as we mentioned before too, anything that could happen, any sort of development in this overlay zone would go before the planning board. And, you know, through that planning board process, if the proposed development doesn't align with what's in the underlying zoning or overlay, and you know, it would cause a detriment that would be fleshed out there.
Well, what is cause of detriment?
It would have to be during the planning board hearing,
Okay, I now live in this zone, and I go to try to get a permit, and it's denied because of the new rules that are applied to that zone.
Why would you be denied the permit?
I just don't know, because
You
new
haven't
rules,
lost any rights.
new rules could be implemented
No new
in
rules.
the darkness of night.
There's no darkness of night. If you listened to Pat at the beginning, you're not losing any rights. All your rights as a R2 homeowner still exist.
I hope that's true. I'm not, like I said, I'm coming in late on this, so I'm not totally understanding of everything, so.
Sir, all due respect to his defense and everyone else's here.
Enough. If you wanna come back up to the mic, this isn't shout when you want to shout,
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Previously, 25 years ago,
your name and address.
Kyle Miller,
Thank you.
66 Madison. The people that did get offers on their house at the height of the housing market were given about 1/3 of the value of their house when they actually got an offer from said Virtua. So at the height of the market, when they should have gotten a good value for their house, Virtua came in like a pack of rabid wolves and took these houses from everybody under the fear that if they didn't sell for a fraction, that it would be eminent domain. And that fear is real and it's still present. And it's not fair that everybody on this side of the room has to worry about that for the God-foreseeable future of whatever is to come of Mount Holly, because Virtua is an almighty God of hell.
Is there anyone that has any additional comments? All right, I'm seeing none, we're closing the public portion to this. Are there any additional comments from council members?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments, Chris. So just for clarification, the last lady who just spoke regarding eminent domain, Ms. Miller, I am pretty sure, this just for clarification purposes, regardless of whether a change to the zoning to an existing residence that is in R2, changes from R2 to R2 overlay, not that I want to instill fear in anybody, but a hospital can still purchase a property and still approach the township to do something of the nature which you're speaking about. I can tell you myself, I don't agree with that, and I would never vote for that. But at the end of the day, that's something that's still out there that isn't that you realize. The possibility. But notwithstanding, I know a lot of people spoke this evening with probably the thought process that this governing body was going to look at this and already have an answer on how we were going to vote tonight. And I want to let you know that that's not how it works. Each of us do receive this information, some be it later than others, some information we got today, and we still have to go through and review it and formulate our own opinions. That includes listening to the public that comes out and speaks on behalf of not just where you live, if you're in these areas, or those within the township who are speaking in support of the residents that are in these areas over here. Now, I know some people, as they were giving their commentary, paused. And with due respect, we were conversing up here a little bit as people were speaking, because there were a lot of different topics that were up here. And one of the topics that we were kind of chatting about back here, or at least amongst ourselves over here, was just exactly what everyone in this room was talking about. So at the end of the day, whether you're in an R2 zone or you're in an R2 zone with an overlay, unfortunately the realization is the end result is still possible to occur at the end of the day. Again, the hospital or any medical facility still has the ability to offer anyone in this township, no matter where they are, and offer other property. And if that person so chooses to sell to them, they have to go before the appropriate boards and commissions in order to sanction a project there. With that being said, we floated the idea that the ordinance that is in question this evening be modified, that the existing R2 zones that are on this map stay R2 zones on this map. And so choosing in the future, should a property sell to a qualifying hospital or qualifying medical facility, they would have to go through the appropriate procedures to go before the Planning and Zoning Board to rezone themselves to the HL zone. Now, the HL zone, which is the first part of the ordinance, outlines areas in which they already own, which would remain the same. So that is what my proposal is. That is kind of like what we conversed. I'd like to get the rest of the board's feeling on this before we make any action on this existing ordinance that's before us. And with that also, I know I discussed earlier about some properties, and for those in this room who don't know, there are properties that were pre-existing in the OB zone. So there were residential properties that existed in that office building zone. My proposal was to take them out of that office building zone and rezone them R2, because they were in a pre-zoned spot that's there. So if this ordinance were to be read tonight and voted upon, any R2 existing property would be rezoned as R2 only. Any residential existing properties in the OB zone would be listed as a R2 zone. And the VFW in the OB zone on the far extent of the map would be kept as the OB zone. And should further properties be acquired by any qualifying agent, they would have to go through the appropriate procedures to go to the Planning and Zoning Board to change those zones.
So are you proposing that we eliminate the overlay?
Modifying the overlays.
Modifying.
There would be no overlay associated with R2 zones.
Basically, R2
We would keep the new HL zone, which is going to be covering the existing properties in which Birchwood owns, and should Birchwood, which would basically limit the OB zone, and if any property were to be acquired in the future by Birchwood or any other qualifying medical company, at that point they can provide the appropriate steps to the Planning and Zoning Board to ask to be converted from a R2 zone or OB zone to the new HL zone.
I would like to move to table this. This feels like a lot to digest and a lot to understand, to just speak through these changes and then vote. And I also would love for us to consider tabling this and then taking a beat to notify anybody that's affected.
So I'm making that motion to table this until the next meeting.
If you're taking out the overlay zone, when nobody would be affected, right?
That's correct. If the overlay zone is taken out, there would be nobody affected.
Rich, I'm slightly worried that the change of adding or deleting the VFW and making these changes is more of a material change to the ordinance that really wasn't considered by the planning board between first and second reading. I think this really puts us back at first reading with these changes. I think the material.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So it goes, okay. So basically, we back to square one.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually gonna suggest to move to like have this completely rewritten, look at it a lot, and then like
I think the tabling was.
Speak up, please.
You gotta teach these people how to use microphones.
Name, address?
Everybody, please,
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 additional
just
comments
not.
while we discuss. Tom?
Yeah, Mayor, I think this would put us back, those suggested revisions, I think that, certainly may potentially allay some fears, of the public, but again, Rich, I'm more concerned that, the planning board members may say this isn't what we considered when we considered master plan consistency. I think it would put you back at first reading.
All right, fair enough. So would we be able to take our suggestions and pass it as a first reading, provide the planning board, or would you want to go to April with the new rendition of the ordinance, including the changes discussed?
Yeah, I think you.
Okay.
So pretty much. Tom, what would you suggest to the table this current?
Yeah, I think this purpose is, as asked through this ordinance to be tabled, and further considered, if possible, later. I didn't know if there was a second to that.
Second.
So we have a first table and a second table. This ordinance 2025-2. Can we get a roll call?
Ms. Astor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Burkus?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes.
Motion to table, please.
So we tabled ordinance 2025-2, so we're back to the drawing board in terms of the first reading. This has to go back to the planning board, so we'll update it on those particular changes that may occur. All right, so we're moving on. If guys, if you exit the room, can you please do it quickly and quietly? Thank you.
Yeah, we can give everybody, a 2-minute recess if you need to leave.
You need to leave.
Okay, thank you guys. Where we at?
All right, we're gonna come back. Please take your seats. If you have a conversation in the room, take them in the hallway, please, while we finish up this meeting. Thank you. Officer, can you get those in the back to make them, take a seat. Thank you. All right, matters presented by the public. Members of the public are invited to submit comments during the public comment portion of this meeting. The council pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act will not publicly discuss personnel matters and may choose not to respond to comments made by members of the public during this portion of the meeting. However, the council will give all comments appropriate consideration and refer all individual complaints to the township manager or appropriate representative. Each citizen will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak in order to allow everyone an opportunity to express their opinions and or concerns. Let's start with the gentleman standing there. State your name, address.
Apologize for my impatience as I have a toddler that need to take him home. Jason Carty, 10 Middleton Drive, Lumberton. I'm here to speak as a taxpayer here in town, not in the capacity of any of my positions of employment or positions, other positions I may hold. Just wanted to simply thank the Mount Holly Police Department, the officers that were here during the fire district meeting the other night. My wife was treated very inappropriately by numerous members of the crowd, the public, and the police officers handled it very professionally. And for the record, she was not escorted out by the police or asked to leave or removed from the meeting like some internet keyboard cowboys would like to insinuate. They were very compassionate. They took her to an office and made sure she was okay, because she was very upset by the way she was attacked and treated by some members of the public. And the one officer actually sat with her for a couple minutes in the other room until she calmed down and offered to walk her out to her car when she was ready. So I just wanted solely to compliment the police force. They're very professional. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize for that.
Not your fault, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, we just open up. Anyone else have any comments? We're not gonna go row by row.
Good evening, my council people. First, happy birthday, Richard. Happy 22nd birthday.
When you're younger.
Second, I'm happy Mr. Brown greeted me. I appreciate that. Lou Brown, I appreciate his greeting. I appreciate that. And I appreciate for the entire, not entire of my higher cup, 7 of them, including Tim Young, he's an EMT, for rescue my mom. I was at the house, I was working, brother and sister called 911, and everybody to help my mom was in distress. I appreciate everyone to come out and help her. She's still recovering at the hospital, still making a little progress. I appreciate everyone, for stepping in, and I appreciate every EMT coming in and help her. Second is, revolution, the second revolution and the last revolution. Can I get further explanation?
Which resolution? Do you have numbers, Louis?
The second revolution and the last.
42 and 44, Mayor.
Yeah, 4 revolutions in there. It's the second and the last.
42 and 44?
Yeah.
All right. So 42, that's a resolution amending certain tax records of the tax collector for a disabled veteran in block 32, lot 16, block 102, top 01, lot 87, that one?
There's probably reduction of property taxes, right?
Yeah, it's probably just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's disabled,
Total disabled, yeah.
totally disabled veteran.
And
44, Mayor.
And 44 is a resolution authorizing submission of the urban enterprise administrative budget. It states exactly what it is. It's a resolution submitting the UEZ budget, administrative budget.
And one last comment I'd like to say. I'd like to thank Mr. The administration for answering my question I have this early about what kind of, how can we fix this that will never happen as the fire commissioner. One government employee of a different town coming to a different town in Mount Holly, a little outburst, but how could we prevent that from taking any further action?
Louis, are you asking this committee, this council, how the fire district handle their business moving forward?
No, we can.
I wonder if the township had any question about that.
Louis, we can't.
Okay, just I'm not teasing no one. I mean,
Elected members, that's not a council. That's not up for us to determine that. It's unfortunate anything that happened that you're trying to state, but they have their 5 elected officials that the people elected. Now, there's a, upcoming election, then they can change that. They can go wherever they want in there, moving forward, but that's not something for us 5 members have any jurisdiction over.
And I make one last comment. How can we put evolution for next few months or something, trying to have the Mount Hardy tax property to stay the same for the rest of the Mount Hardy Garden resident? I want that somehow Mount Hardy can put evolution together to pay the same taxes as long as they live in their own home. For example, for me and for my disabled mom, I want to stay at the tax rate at the same rate until the end of time. Then we the entire council people bring out evolution or a solution to keep the same rate until, at the end of life. Then way you can do that, or I know that Ohio did before, I think it's like 6 years ago, and they fought it and they won. Mount Hardy could do the same thing for the rest of Mount Hardy Gardens. Keep the proper rate at the same.
We're not that time to discuss that at this particular time, to revise that. All right, I think there's still 15 plus, is it 15 years? Yeah. Still 15 years left on that tax abatement.
Can you a little bit louder?
Repeat that? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, can you repeat, you say?
He's asking you to repeat that.
Oh, I said, you still have 15 years left on that tax abatement. That's not up for discussion at any time soon. When it comes up for discussion, we'll let you know.
Okay. I did one thing I did something real fun. I sent an email and to our president to grant me one wish. I hope that president gave me that wish, and I hope soon. It's a real powerful wish I ask, and I hope he could grant me that wish. Thank you, and appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jeff Eversmeyer, 203 Broad Street. I'm glad Mr. Carty came. Actually, I'd like to thank you guys for tabling this motion, so you guys have time to digest what's going on. I think what I said has value. I'm valid about everything I've said. The hospital has not respected our residents. It's up to you guys to stand up to them. And anything you need to do before they start doing what they're going to do, it needs to be in stone or blood or whatever, so it doesn't happen. But they did to that. We saved that house. We spent tens of thousands of dollars suing the hospital to move that house. As soon as they started thinking they're getting ready to do it, they didn't move it again. They owned all that land. They could have moved it anywhere there. They just come and destroyed it. That was a perfect house. That was one of the nicest houses and carriage houses in New Jersey. That's the only one we could have saved. The rest were already demolished by the time we got it. We spent our time and money fighting for that house. As far as this, what Jason Carty said, I want every one of you to watch those tapes. It was all recorded for the Monday meeting and the Wednesday meeting. From start to finish. Don't skip through it, watch it, and see how the residents and the firemen were disrespected. I've never been to a meeting where we vote on things and make decisions before anybody can speak. It's unbelievable, and I'd like to know what they all feel now after everybody spoke as to how they feel about what's going on. It's unbelievable that that commission would just silence the whole crowd, make a decision, and let their voices be heard afterwards, after the decisions are already made. They could have changed their mind. Maybe they would have liked what they heard, they didn't, or maybe it would have enlightened them a little bit. They didn't want to hear it. They had their minds made up what they were going to do, one way or the other. I actually met the other guy who was the runner-up. He had a resume unbelievable. And as a matter of fact, after I talked to him, he's the chief of the Vincenttown Firehouse. And he said our guys would die to run our machine, our fire department here during the day. So you have some unbelievable equipment and stuff. It says, I can't believe you guys are paying someone to do it. My guys are probably doing it for free. We got 64 firefighters. We started out with 20. Here's a guy who loves fire department and firemen. And he wanted to do something for our community. And I also met another guy who put in his application, was never responded to. He even called the lawyer and asked him if they got the application. They said yes. But I don't know how the process was, I don't know who they brought in, what questions, what's your vision of the fire department in the future? Well, this is our town, this is your town, we live here. What's the vision of the firefighter? Or the person who's gonna be in charge? What's their job? Is it full-time or part-time? What's it pay? I didn't see anything in the application. People didn't even know what they're looking for. So I called the guy, Dave Uzell, I'm sure some of you know him, because he trained every single firefighter in Burlington County for 22 years. And he gave me so much information of who to call, and then I found out all these things. People who had applied to be the fire commissioner on this fire board, and one was never contacted again, and he served on this community for 22 years. He served, he was a captain and a lieutenant with Dave Gazelle. They ran our fire department, but I guess they weren't good enough. So you guys watch that, and then get back to me, and tell me that that's the way I want our town to be. You guys, every one of you, watch it from start to finish, because nobody knew about Monday, it wasn't until Wednesday, that's when it was official. It's kind of like a little backwards thing. So watch it, make your opinions, and then decide what you think needs to be done. Because if you can help, you should be helping. If there's nothing you can do or you don't care, then do nothing.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else?
Amber Kopervas, 100 Madison Avenue. Hello again, friends. I just had a quick question about the Historic Preservation Committee. I know that's been pushed back, and the application was reopened and it pushed back. And is there any progress on that? Because I think something like that would have helped with the situation of the house that was demolished, kind of with no notice. Because somebody maybe even would have wanted to buy it or move it or something, but like, you know, we're seeing in real time what happens as a result of not having a committee, and there were a lot of interested applicants. So is there any movement on that? Any projected movement on that? Or?
Yes, there's movement, but when we're ready to announce everyone, we will.
Okay, there's gonna be like an unveiling. Cool,
Not
cool, cool.
tonight.
No, of course not. No, I wouldn't
We still have
have
a
thought
meeting-
so.
We still have a meeting in April.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And just a real quick, not even a clarification, but a comment. I was equally disturbed knowing that the house was destroyed. I kind of found out on Facebook as well when it occurred. I spent many days over there when I used to be the attorney's office for the township at one point in the past. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, that property was not in the historic zone. The property wasn't listed on any register. And unfortunately, as ironic as it is, the hospital moved into that property. The hospital bought that property, and then the hospital knocked down that property. So it's unfortunate at the end of the day, but from a historic standpoint, they would have been able to protect that if that zone was rezoned or added into the registry. So that's my only comment.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
For the old Monty Python fans, now for something completely different. I don't know how I follow all that, some very important resolutions and other topics, but a couple of quick items to mention. Joe Lamberti,
Address.
Fort Walton Road, Mount Holly. So the Mount Holly is really well known for a lot of fantastic downtown events. And what a lot of people know, we've lost our whole audience, but what a lot of people don't know is that they're put on by a number of different organizations, all who work hard to put on fantastic events in Mount Holly that draw a lot of people into town to shop and visit the breweries, the eateries and shops of all sorts and distillery, everything. The car show continues, and this is one of the Main Street Mount Holly events that happen. And there's a number of other ones as well. And we have now revamped the Main Street Mount Holly website. There's a lot of hardworking volunteers on Main Street, committees that represent these events, that do a lot of other things in town as well. And what the website and the social media, people that are involved in those committees for Main Street do is pick up on all the events that go on in town, whether it's a township run, a county run, a Mill Street run, wherever, and even among the various merchants, shop owners, eateries, et cetera, et cetera. So what we'd like to see, if that's possible, and there may be a new contact person for us to work with, is reciprocity. And Rich Sefalco, you know how hard you worked in years past on the car show itself and what it takes to run a lot of events. I know you're very involved in that. So, you know, that kind of support and getting the promotional message out really helps, and just helps the whole town and helps all the merchants within the town to thrive and to do well and attract more and more and more and different people to Mount Holly that are discovering it either for the first time or coming back or rekindling their love for Mount Holly. This is all that we want. So we'd like that consideration among the township website, social media, that sort of thing, calendar. We can work with whoever, however you'd like us to do that. There's other committee members that can make that happen. We've updated it in a number of ways. Thank you. The second thing is working with the county. They've provided a few small business workshops that are free to sign up. Same thing here, posted on the Main Street Mount Holly website and through social media. If the township social media and website could pick up on that and share that as well. Again, good for our town, good for the business district, and all concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Manverdi, whatever you have, you want to share, you want to send it over to us?
Yes, I had hoped that I'd have car show flyers printed by now, but I'm a couple of days away from that, so I'll bring them over to the municipal building, and then
Make sure you give them to Sharon. Come to this one.
will do. Actually,
Joe,
what I-
anything that you have that may be in electronic format, PDFs, JPEGs, et cetera, that go on multimedia, same place, if you could forward them to Sherry, that'd be great.
do you prefer PDF or JPEG?
Just going on things like Facebook websites. JPEG.
Yeah,
And I
easier
can
to
always
work.
PDF. If I
Okay.
can make a PDF, I can do it.
If I may approach, I've got two things I can leave.
Email them over to me and, here, just drop them off whenever you want to. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Manverdi.
Joe, I'm glad that our original design for the car show flyers kind of morphed into what it is today.
Say that again?
The original design that's on there.
Yeah.
It's still very reminiscent of the first one that we did.
It's
years
still a
ago.
nod
Yeah.
to, exactly, yep.
I appreciate it.
Maintain
I'll
that
do that one.
graphic touch, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Manverdi. Go ahead.
Good evening, council. Again, I just wanted to thank you all. This is one time that I was happy to see the council working in full unison. It's good. A dear friend just reminded me of times of old when we had seen council meetings that looked like this, where people, their voices were heard. Nothing better than being heard. And again, I thank you. And keep up the good work.
Cool, thank you.
Happy Wednesday again. Maureen Taylor Ford, 117 Branch Street. Great St. Patty's Day with the Mount Holly Rec. Did the little baby run. Me and my husband out of 5 grown-ups, but I beat all those kids though. Just quick, I just got a quick question. I'm just curious. The sign that's in town that's plugged in that keeps saying St. Patty's Day, St. Patty's Day.
It needs to be changed.
Yeah, so who pays that electricity? Because it's been going since, prior to St. Patty's Day. It's been nonstop all night. I came from a funeral in New York yesterday. Just happened to drive down High Street, 10:56, it was still flashing. And the only reason I'm asking this, Rich, because I know you just got here in January, but we had an issue where one time my husband asked for some extra documents like print-ups, and we were told the township had no money. If you have no money, how are you running a sign that's well past our event day, was running well before our event day? So we have to have some kind of balance here. If we're saying we don't have money for paper to print things, how do we have money to pay for the electricity? I don't know, just some checks and balances. I'm just looking in, guys, just looking in. The other thing I wanted to ask is, for our officer in charge, our Captain Spencer, does he have to go through you guys to have some type of community forum for people to have a question and answer time? A lot of people I met during the car show were asking questions. They were even stopping police officers in the street, asking them questions, just general questions. These gentlemen don't seem like they're gonna answer questions, so if there's never anyone here, and I appreciate his community bulletin, I don't know if that was his idea or your idea, but it's appreciative. But my concern is, how can more people meet up? Willingboro has like coffee and chew or chat with the coffee officers or whatever. I'm hoping Mount Holly will have something like that moving forward. There's a need in the community for people who are not on social media to be able to see face value of the officers also. The other thing I think I brought this up last 2 years that I've been coming here. RV is having their RV assassins. Not something I agree with. I don't agree with water guns at all. But the school always sends a memo out. I never seen anything on the township website letting people know in town you're gonna have a bunch of crazy kids running around with water guns. I mean, we've had no accidents, thank God. But this is something, my kid is excited, your kid, kids are excited, and I always have to dumb it down in my house. But they just posted it on the internet, Mr. Martin, letting the township know this is not a RV approved function, but to just let the community know. You see a bunch of kids running around with water guns, and the third time I have not heard the township say anything. This is, I think, what, 3 or 4 years I've been coming to this meeting now?
This is the first time we've heard about that up here, just so you know.
So, but they put it on the website, and that goes again with the interfacing and the community aspect of knowing what's going on within your community, within every business, within every school institution. We just had the Black History Month, or Soul Food thing at the grammar school at Falwell. I mean, you knew about that, Mayor Banks, did you not? So you don't know what's going on in your high school?
Yeah, and just to, your time is up, but just to comment on that, the principal will contact me directly about that.
Okay, but again.
Mr. Martin has not contacted me about the RV, and I never heard of it.
Well, I'm not certain if he's contacting you or the township manager, that's why I'm asking.
No.
This is the 3rd year that I've asked about this. You've been sitting there the last few times I
I've
asked.
heard of that event since it, I mean, just that, so I don't ever recall you talking about it before, maybe prior to me. We'll talk, we can always have a conversation, Mr. Martin, and find out, and improve the communication better from RV.
Do you know when that is?
I just checked the email. I think it's gonna start in the next couple of days or so.
So it's
I think after testing.
It's an unsanctioned event from.
It is always unsanctioned, it's always been unsanctioned. I've put 4 kids through
I'm
RV.
assuming the principal will not contact anybody.
Well, he puts it on the community bulletin, so if you have a child there that's active, I'm on the inclusion board there, so I know a little bit more things. But I know I brought it to Josh's attention more than one.
I've never heard of that.
Okay, well, I'll go and dig up the tapes. Lewis had them from when we were in that rat hole building over there. So you guys can, I'm not gonna play this game. What I did wanna say to you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know Jason Carty, I don't know his wife, and I stood here and I listened to you offer the man an apology, okay? And I believe that you are biased with your apologies. I know, I've seen things go on this council, and I've never heard you apologize to anybody. In this public forum, in the spotlight that you
Stop
did.
right there, Ms. Ward, because I've offered apologies multiple times, even to you. So I don't know what to say to you in that situation. So you're trying to speculate.
No, I'm not trying to speculate. I'm not trying to speculate, because, when we started this in December, you said January, we're gonna stop all this attacking back and forth, all of this, we're gonna stop this hee-haw, woo-haw, that's going on. But this is the 3rd month. This is March, and it's still going on. Still going on, Rich, it's still going on. And the thing was, we were gonna stop all of that, the attacking of each other, okay? We were gonna stop all of that. We were gonna be
Thank you.
cordial,
Appreciate it.
okay?
But
And
your
it
time
seems
is
to
up,
me
Ms.
it's still going on.
Ms. Ford, you have someone behind you trying to speak. Your time is up. Thank you.
Hi, how are you, everyone? My name is Jerry Segovia. I'm actually from Patterson. I am not from Mount Holly. I'm glad to be here and to listen to the community as well. Thank you for allowing me in here. So I am a CEO of a Class 1 cannabis cultivator. We're looking into a location here in Mount Holly and 14 King Street. We're very interested. We did submit a couple of emails out to council and to Mr. Brown. We did CC some of the councilmen here, councilwomen. We're very interested in working with Mount Holly. I know it's something that can benefit both of us as a business and as a township. We're willing to mitigate with all our, odors, everything necessary to secure our facility. I'm just hoping that we hear from you guys soon. We're actually on a time constraint with the CRC. Our license is due to expire May 13th. And so we're hoping that you can actually, give us a reply. And that'll be it. Just wanted to show up over here in person, show my face. And I want to say thank you, and I hope everyone has a good night, and hope to hear from you guys soon.
So state your name, John?
Jerry Segovia from representing Shaman Secure LLC.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hope you have a good night. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry Obresti, 35 I Street. I own Downtown Pizza. So, a few questions I have, a few concerns. One of them is safety. Okay, we have some issues with some young people going around, and it's not good. They scare people away. They scare my customer away. Okay. Also, like people that kind of like afraid to come downtown at nighttime, especially in the back lot. It's like really dark. So I had to provide to call PSEG and fix that problem, which is not supposed to be my problem. But anyway, I made the effort. Actually, somebody called PSEG for me to put those lights back, okay? One of my customer, it was held at gunpoint back there last year in the dark, okay? So that's one of the issues that we have, and we have to fix it, because as a business owner, and I do love Mahali, even though I don't live in Mahali, it's like, to me, like I live and I breathe Mahali all day long. I work 12 hours a day, I own a business, very proud to be in Mahali, and I'm all in for it, okay? But you have to help us out too. As a business owner, you know what I mean? Like, whenever we need something, I want you guys to hear us. Now, I don't, listen, I never participate in meetings because sometimes I get a lot of hand, out of hand. I don't want to make enemies, okay? But I'm only here just because I do own a business and I want to address these two things. So one is the safety, okay? I don't know, maybe we need more police officer to patrol the roads at nighttime, okay? Just to make it, safe for the people, okay? This is number one. And then also when we have events, okay? Car show, whatever we have, I'm all in, okay? Me as a business owner and everybody else, we are the first one who chip in when, okay, donations, all right? One thing is that I don't agree, and that doesn't make me greedy, because what I got to say. But if a vendor comes to you, okay, comes to the township, and they say, look, this is what I want to say, okay? Now, this is not being greedy. This is like looking out for everybody else. I will ask the guy, what are you selling? The guy is going to say, I'm going to sell cookies. Okay, move up the street. We have the sweet spot right across the street from my shop, okay? For the past 2 years, last year I had a trailer guy selling pizza between me and La Vida's. This is not fair, because the guy comes in town, pays a couple $100 in fees, collects everything, and goes away up to the next. It does not work like that, okay? When they come in town and you have to ask, okay? Now, I'm not trying to make it law, but you have to ask, what are you selling? I don't care if you sell hot dogs, whatever it is. But don't go standing between me and the other guy. This year, a fire and ice, okay? Somebody else moved from there, moved right in front of, Village Giddy. That's not fair. You know, I'm the one who pays taxes in town. I'm the one who supports the town when they need something. I'm the one who shoves donation, not those people. Now, it doesn't, it's not mean that I'm greedy. I'm not greedy. I don't care what they say, okay? But we don't want no competition in there, especially those events, because when there's an event in town, me and everybody else, we shovel more money in order to, to get more merchandising, and then we have a guy that is outside, you know what I mean? So this is not fair. So this is not a thing. And also, the last thing, guess this gentleman that just came in for another dispensary, okay? And I don't care about the dispensaries, but that one on High Street, that killed the whole town. I'm sorry if I have to say that. I know it brings revenues in town, okay? I understand completely. But High Street, it wasn't for that, okay? I started almost 12 years ago in town. When I started downtown Mahali, it was like a ghost town, okay? I worked very hard between me, the ice cream man, Vince, the brewery, Coco's here now, everybody else, those few restaurants to draw people in town, okay? And I know you run the town and you run the town from an office. I talk to people every day. I'm there 12 hours a day and I speak with people 7 days a week, okay? When somebody comes up to me and say, you know what, Jerry goes, I love Mahali, goes, but it became a pothead town. What would I say? You know what I mean? So that's all I want to say, nothing else. I don't want to, it's not it's like, as a businessman, you run the town, I don't want to put no laws. But the dispensary right there, we need a better stuff on High Street. We didn't need that dispensary in the first place. Those two over there, it's fine, they're in the corner, but Main Street is supposed to be Main Street. It's supposed to be for kids, like, people, families that come in there with kids. There's a long line next to the ice cream store, and he's gonna end up right from the dispensary. I mean, now it's too late, okay? But even that sign that he has, which I shouldn't even care, but when I got in town 12 years ago almost, I was told not to put an open sign on my window, which is fine. People already know downtown pizza, so I really don't care. You know what I mean? But when I drove by the street, that sign over there, it's got nothing to do with the town, like completely at all. With downtown district,
Jerry, we appreciate your comments, thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? I'm seeing none, we're gonna close the public portion. All right, so we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by council and will be enacted by one motion. Should a council member wish to discuss a consent agenda item separately, that item can be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence. Is there anything you want to move or vote on separately?
Yes, resolution number 2025-44.
2025-44?
Yes, letter D.
Anything else?
That is all.
All right, so we'll take resolutions 2025, 41, 42, 43, the bill list, and the department head reports in one motion.
I'm sorry. Wait, I'd like to move the bill list. I have a lot of questions on that. So can we move that as well, please?
All right, so we remove the bill list and 44.
Thank you.
All right, so we have resolutions 41, 42, 43, and the department head reports in one report, the other two we'll vote on separately. All right, do I have a motion to approve 41, 42, 43, and the department head reports?
So moved.
We have a first, so we have a second.
I'll second.
You got it? Okay. Got a second from Mr. Brown, got a first from Mr. Falco. Roll call, please.
Ms. Astor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Ms. Burkus?
Yes.
Jones?
Mr. Jones.
Even on my birthday, but yes, I agree.
Mr. Falco?
Okay, let's do this again, roll call.
Ms. Astor.
Yes.
Mr. Brown. Yes. Ms. Perkins.
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco.
Yes.
Mr. Banks.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, those resolutions have passed. Resolution number 2025-44, resolution authorizing submission of the Urban Enterprise Administrative Budget. Do you have questions on this particular instance?
Yes.
What's your questions, please?
Oh, I thought it was gonna wait till after.
Well, we get a motion in a second, so let's get a first.
Motion to approve.
That's the second, I think this.
That is a second.
First. So we had a first from Ms. Astor, second from Mr. DeFalco. Now your question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just quick, I know we got this a little bit late, emailed to us, so it may not be in the full packet for the public to read the full text. Just want to know what the $32,235 is being utilized for? Sorry? Oh, okay, I thought that was already budgeted. No, that's perfect, great, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, we have a first from Ms. Astor, second from Mr. DeFalco. Roll call, please.
Ms. Astor.
Yes.
Mr. Brown. Ms. Perkins.
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco.
Yes.
Mr. Banks.
Yes. All right, that's passed. So we have the approval of the bill list.
Yep.
Can we get a first, and then a second, and then we'll address your question?
I move to approve the bill list.
We have a first? We have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Burke is second. All right, and what's your
I
question?
just have two questions on the bill list. One is, the $6,295 for Fort Nassau Graphics. What project or what work are they doing for us?
Calendars.
Oh, the calendars, great, okay. And then Town Web Design LLC.
Our website.
What are they doing for the website?
They host it.
Oh, they host it, okay, that's it.
That's it. Any additional questions? Seeing none, we already had a first from Mr. Falco, a second from Ms. Burke. Roll call, please.
Ms. Astor.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Perkins.
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco.
Yes.
Mr. Banks.
Yes. All right, the consent agenda has passed. Matters to be reported by our town manager. Josh, you have anything? Thank you, sir. Our town solicitor?
Nothing, for open session, just a quick, brief closed session.
Okay.
And I do not anticipate we will take any action in public session.
Okay, thank you. Matters considered by council. Starting with Ms. Burkes.
Yeah, yep, just a few quick things. I'm not sure that I have his name right, Commander Gilby?
Gilby.
Gilby from the VFW, as well as Ms. Taylor Ford and Dr. Johnson, all appreciate you coming today, and also just wanted to thank you all for your service, and appreciate always hearing from you guys. Regarding the HL zone and the HLO overlay, the only thing I really want to say about that, I'm glad that we tabled it. I think it needs, I know I need more time to get around it and get my mind around what sort of impact it has, even in its updated fashion. So appreciate the grace there with the rest of the council for that. And the one thing that I think that we also need to discuss or pay close attention to is I personally feel like we are lucky to have a community hospital. I think that they're sort of becoming a thing of the past, as opposed to these sort of off in the distance, big, giant campuses. I do believe in a lot of ways it provides access to healthcare for people in our overburdened and sometimes underserved community. So I do think that that is of value. However, I do believe that we could do a better job of making sure that as their growth happens, that they are a part of making sure that this is done in a responsible and fair way, and they can be a part of reducing any negative impact. So I think we have a little bit more to do there, and any sort of negotiations that are happening as we anticipate the inevitable growth that they are. Yes.
Just real quick, just want to make sure, Jerry, I have a response to Jerry before he leaves. I want to make sure he stays
Okay.
with more comments.
Jerry,
Jerry.
if you can, I look like you're packing up to leave. If you don't mind, I know the councilwoman is speaking right now, but I do have some comments to Jerry.
Jerry wants to say something to you.
I have some comments for you, so if you can sit.
Go ahead, just say it.
If you can sit.
No, go ahead. We'll finish it. I just want to make sure, that's sorry, can't let me interrupt you.
Anyway, my point was, I think that we could do a better job as a council and a township of making sure that Virtua is also being a part of what we need to do in order to reduce or eliminate the negative impact to our community. And then also I am distraught at the lack of communication to those who are going to be affected by this. It just doesn't feel good at all when, these things are just sort of leaking out, in weird ways, either word of mouth, incorrect information, as well as just stuff on social media, when there's plenty of people affected, or potentially affected, or interested, that aren't even on social media, probably more and more than ever. So, I commit to trying to be a part of doing better there. And then I just wanted to thank the folks who organized, volunteered, participated in the Burlington County St. Patty's Day Parade. I would imagine that we've set some sort of records last week. It was amazing. The weather really cooperated. Everything was beautiful. We had so many floats and people marching in bands. It's just a true testament to what it looks like when we're all working together in our community. So just wanted to thank those who are a part of that, either participating, volunteering, and organizing. And that is it for me.
Cool. Thank you, Ms. Burton. Ms. Astor? Or, you know what, can we skip? Want to address yours real quick? Yeah, Jerry.
Just, thanks, Joe, for coming back from leaving, so.
Should I get on the stand?
No, you don't, no. So, you had brought up, during public session about the safety and security of the downtown, including the restaurant and customers. So I just wanted to let you know, I know a lot of the other shopkeepers that were there left. I couldn't get them all, so I can say this, but one of the things at the UEZ that I'm the president at right now that we're working on is a 5-year plan that we submitted to the state and got approved. With that, we are budgeting about $250,000 of the monies that come from the state from the UEZ to add 2 additional Class 2 officers for the downtown area, 4 actually, 2 on at any given time, including the purchase of a vehicle that will be wrapped in a UEZ Mount Holly PD fashion with new uniforms, as well as a camera program that businesses can work with the UEZ to have installed that would go back to the PDs for any additional video footage should we need it for any security issues that may occur in the downtown area. So I just want to let you know that a lot of these things aren't set yet as far as exactly what the program is going to be, except for the police program, which passed and is going to be submitted to the state for approval at that part. But I just want to let you know that the safety and security is one of our top priorities of the downtown area, because it is supposed to be a family-friendly area in which you can bring people to come eat, right? So in order to do that, we need to make sure that all of these things are in place to make sure that not only the businesses downtown are successful, but those who patronize downtown feel safe and secure while they're down there. The other piece that I wanted to address very shortly, you had brought up about different food vendors during events that take away and distract from the existing businesses downtown. I can tell you, and again, this is not about pointing any one individual.
May I interrupt you real quick?
1 second, Jerry. This is not about pinning blame on any one individual, any group whatsoever. People do make mistakes in the past, but I know that, for instance, for the fireworks show that we have over in the park, I do have a vendor that does things like funnel cakes. In the past, certain organizations asked them to come, but at the same time invited 2 or 3 more funnel cake people at the same time. Understanding that's not a vendor that's downtown, it is still the same thought process to a person who's paying money to be into an event and is not getting the full benefit of being in that event. And I would think that in the downtown area, any foundation or group who has an event downtown would take into consideration the businesses that sponsor those events and make sure that things like there's not a pizza shop between you and Levita's, or that there's a pastry shop between a pastry shop you have downtown. I can go on, but the point is that the whole point of having UEZ business and supporting our downtown, the businesses, is supposed to be just that. And everyone talks about working together, but it goes both ways with our organizations exterior, like Main Street or anybody else that wants to work with us. We have someone here speaking about Main Street for the Township. We have to think about the businesses that are downtown as well and how that impacts them if there's another business that's in front of your store selling the same goods that you are. So I just wanted to comment on that, but more